A California man was puzzled when he checked his bank account online. He noticed that about $1,000 worth of goods had been purchased using his credit card. A few days later, a package arrived at his door. Inside the small box was a new iPhone. He now realized that someone had used his credit card info to order an iPhone. But that person made two major mistakes. If you've ever ordered online, you know there is a billing address and a shipping address. Apparently, the purchaser entered the credit card billing address for the shipping. Thus, they inadvertently had the phone shipped to the credit card holder's address. But that was just the first mistake. The second one appeared on the purchase order that was inside the box. When the man looked at the form, he noticed that it listed an address that was 77 miles away from where he lived. So the thief had used his own address to place the order, but didn't realize he was shipping the phone to the victim's house. When the man contacted police, he was able to provide them with the suspect's real name and address. Simi Valley police said that credit card thieves tend to have multiple victims, so they expect to find many stolen cards at the suspect's home. Interestingly, the victim said he didn't want to ruin the thief's life over this crime. He hoped they would simply send him to jail for a day just to scare him. He said he understands people may encounter tough financial times, but theft is no excuse. That may be true, but someone going through tough times doesn't need an expensive iPhone. And as police pointed out, these types of crimes tend to be committed by repeat offenders, so it sounds more like they are motivated by greed. Meanwhile, the bank has already refunded him for the fraudulent charges. And while police did not provide any updates, we are sure they caught the suspect. This is the type of crime where you would probably think, nobody else could be this stupid. You would be wrong. An identity thief in New York used a stolen credit card to place an online order. He bought 2 Galaxy phones, phone cases, chargers and screen protectors for $2,000, but he accidentally sent them to the victim's house on Staten Island. However, the thief realized his mistake once the order was shipped. So he came up with a plan to retrieve the items. This guy actually showed up at the victim's house. He rang the doorbell and claimed he was the FedEx delivery guy. He said he came to pick up a package that was sent there by accident. But the victim didn't buy the story. Out of desperation, the man then claimed the whole thing was a misunderstanding and that the package was actually his. He said it was sent to the victim because they have the exact same name. The homeowner didn't fall for that line either. The suspect then ran away, leaving the phones behind. But this was a failure in more ways than one. That's because detectives said he was caught on the house doorbell camera. So he also left his picture behind. A teen in Astoria, Oregon learned a valuable lesson about what not to do on social media. He was involved in a car accident that resulted in damage to 2 other vehicles. This occurred early in the morning on New Year's Day. However, he left the scene of the accident. When Astoria police responded at 1 a.m., they had no leads as to who was responsible. Thinking he had just dodged a bullet, the teen bragged about what he had just done in a Facebook post. Here is what he posted. "Drivin' drunk. Classic. But to whoever's vehicle I hit, I am sorry." It should be noted that he made it a point to include 2 emoticons in his post. One was the wink emoticon, and the other one is used to symbolize the tongue sticking out. Both of these emoticons are used for playful expression. So he was basically telling the victims, "Sorry, not sorry." Of course, his Facebook friends saw his post and apparently some of them didn't think it was funny. They even forwarded the message to the Astoria Police Department. Additional tips eventually led officers to the suspect's home. Once at the house, they were able to connect pieces from the crash scene to the vehicle registered to the teen. According to police, he initially denied any involvement. It wasn't until he was confronted with overwhelming evidence that he finally admitted to it. Yet he denied being drunk at the time. He said he lost control of his car on the icy road. Apparently, he claimed the reference to being drunk was just a joke. He was later quoted as saying, "Yeah, sure, I shouldn't have posted that. I kind of regret it, but it just got blown out of proportion." However, the owner of one of the cars he damaged said she didn't think the post was blown out of proportion as it resulted in his arrest. She added, "I didn't have to do anything. He pretty much turned himself in." The Astoria Police Department has since started looking at other Facebook messages. They say they are seeing quite a few posts from people bragging about evading the police. So this could get interesting. As for the 18-year-old teen, he was charged with 2 counts of failing to perform the duties of a driver. That's also known as a hit and run, but the deputy chief said that he was not charged with drunken driving. That's because the Facebook post is not sufficient evidence that he was intoxicated at the time of the accident. That's understandable. But think about that for a moment. He crashes into 2 cars on New Year's Eve, leaves the scene of the accident, and posts on Facebook that he was drunk. Seriously, what are the odds that he wasn't driving under the influence? Imagine someone who loves to drink alcohol, take drugs, and eat good food. Now imagine that same person locked up in prison. How will they satisfy their cravings? Well, they could simply arrange for someone to fill up a bag of goodies and leave them outside. Then they could escape from prison to pick up the bag and return to their cell. As ridiculous as that sounds, that's what an inmate in a federal prison in Beaumont, Texas was doing. And sheriff's deputies in Jefferson County decided to figure out how he was getting the goods. So they set up a sting operation outside the facility at around 5:45 p.m. About 2 hours later, they saw a vehicle drive up to an adjacent property that was owned by a rancher. Someone inside the vehicle dropped a large black duffel bag and drove off. Next, they witnessed an inmate leaving the prison using a back door. As he approached the bag, officers moved in. The inmate attempted to run back inside the prison, but was quickly apprehended. Once confiscated, the authorities said the duffel bag was full of chicken sausage, packages of tobacco, snacks, fruits, bottles of whiskey and brandy, and plenty of home-cooked food. The inmate was already in the process of serving 27 months for conspiring to distribute drugs. But he'll now likely do additional time as he faces escape and marijuana possession charges. So his craving to satisfy his guilty pleasures wound up keeping him in prison a lot longer. Deputies said that inmates had been essentially making up their own privileges at the facility. That's quite an embarrassment for the Texas prison. But do you really think that security at a Texas federal prison was so bad that inmates could come and go as they please? Really, who was leaving the door unlocked for these inmates? That's what inquiring minds want to know.